supported. They actually, over the years, they haven't really been beat up bad by budget, and I guess this year, they're still gonna make out pretty well, so. I don't know how.
So we got had that meeting with Geiger down the yard. He told us right now, we got work for 5 years,
Yeah,
guaranteed,
very good.
all funded. Supposed to put 500 people on within the next couple of months.
Odd business. You lay them off, you bring them.
I know, I was just thinking, yeah. But hey, if it works.
To do what works.
How many of those people that you think, when they do that, they bring them on, are the people that have already been there?
Trouble is, that's what they're finding out, they're not bringing back as many as they thought they would. That's why they tried so desperately not to lay them off, because a lot of them didn't come back.
Find alternatives. We're gonna have to.
Some of them guys been laid off 4 or 5 times.
Right.
I've been there for 25 years, and I've never been laid off.
You're lucky.
Just where you are and what you're doing.
Right.
Did Purdy tell you what the decision was at the last school board meeting?
What's that?
Purdy tell you what the decision was at the last school board meeting?
No, basically, I called last night to find out where they were, because that's what I thought happened last year. I just wanted to refresh my memory, so I called her and asked her.
I sat to the last budget meeting. It was, they were actually missing $360,000.
They're missing?
Not missing, but actually in their budget. And it would be, I thought there would be some prevention about, what they can do and what they can cut, but they've already cut quite a bit. And discussion. On the council, we're gonna ask for a tax increase. That's what
Well, see, last year, they gave back $375,000.
No, they didn't.
Yeah, they did.
They used it in their budget. They did not give any of that back. I went to the dot that night. Every year, the school takes their undesignated funds and uses it back in their own budget. They always have. They never came back to the town. Never.
Who's that?
Absolutely not. For some reason, someone out there is thinking that the school gave back $300,000 of undesignated funds back to our budget last year.
No.
It always stays in the school. It goes back to the school. Always has. It's never come to the town. As long as I ever been in council. I'm not sure where people get the information, but there's 2 or 3 people who mentioned that to me. I was like, evidently they have no idea what they're talking about, because every year the school takes it and they put it back in their funds. The school this year, unfortunately, doesn't have it because they used all their undesignated funds to keep this year going. So they're coming into the new year. So they usually have, between 300 and 500, roughly, give or take.
Well, they've been whittling it down like we have
Yeah.
over the last probably 5 years. And they were down to only about 300 and somewhat thousand, and
Last
they
year,
used
yeah.
all of that last year to help offset taxes.
It went all back. It went all back to their budget to offset the next year.
So, I mean, they may have some, but they won't know until the end of this year what they have to
But the
put
town's
back
never
in.
taken it back.
No, no,
The
it
town's
all
never
goes,
It's never
right.
gone to the municipal side, and never gone in general funds, as
Right.
long as I've been a council.
How can they do that? You said that we've said that many times on this council, that they cannot do that. If there's any undesignated funds, it has to be
No,
returned.
no, the school can use it back to offset their budget, which they always.
They have to use, right, they have to use, that money has to be used only for educational reductions.
But it gets put in the budget for the following year.
The school budget, not
Right,
our
in the
budget.
school budget.
Right.
School budget. It doesn't come to the council has nothing to do with it. I mean, besides, they use it to actually offset their following year budget. I've had 2 or 3 people ask me that. I was like, man, I'm not sure where people are getting their information, but the council doesn't vote on it. It's all the school that's, when they do their budgets, what they use their money for.
Right.
I guess if the council was actually, push comes to shove, I guess the council could actually say it needs to go back in the general fund, and we'll disperse it evenly between the 2, but I think it's always been kind of a unwritten rule that it goes back into the school,
I think Dale's to and
Only money that's taken out of the school
Overwhelming lies. So,
is
says there's nothing too
a budget that we had any control of.
Well, the only thing is these fuel
Back in the
bids,
vote, and we voted
because we don't have,
$15,000 out of the budget.
no, you don't have last
Only
year's numbers.
deduction we made
Oh, I
last
can
year,
tell you,
and it was made strictly after that vote.
they're up, I'll tell you that much.
And it came right out of business and building improvements.
We were paying,
They always happen. tell that to Dot the other night, that it doesn't come out and does. She says, well, I realize as a council that you're not doing it directly. I said, Dot, I said, none of that money. We've never taken your investment funds. I said, oh. She got up and made a statement about, I guess, an article was written in the ledger about the idea of taking the money back and that type of stuff. I said, Dot, I said, I wish people, you'd ask the information. So I realized the council doesn't do it on purpose. I was like, no, the council never did it at all. a steel rod and sewing it back up the best I could. And it took quite a while. It's still like a black on the end, but I guess
Yeah.
it's coming around now.
Oh, so that's
Wow,
what they've
yeah.
got.
Arrange with them.
It had operated on it a couple times, but
Avery
I
Jones.
don't know. I'm one of these people that if it's not gonna work 100%, I think I would've just said,
Yeah,
yeah.
give me the nub and I'll figure out how to make things work. You'll
That's-
eventually get to use
It's
it.
not me though, it's not my fingers.
I know. Yeah,
I've had quite a few stitches on them, but
Yeah.
nothing like that.
me neither. I don't want anything. That's the worst I wanna see is what I got right there.
Yeah, I think it,
He brought the target.
yeah, well, I guess you could continue to let them do whatever. That's the only way it's gonna happen.
What happened to this?
I haven't had time, I'm gonna start.
This was supposed to be on this agenda.
Oh, he's still
Wow,
there.
I like it.
They worked it out, huh?
Worked it out.
I'll walk out with the wrong stuff or not and stuff, so I said, I'm gonna
I kinda figured that was gonna happen myself.
Okay.
There's a lot
Ryan
of
said,
them.
Yeah.
I should have bought both of them because there were two of them there and I should have just, but I didn't.
did a good job.
Got another project going on and we had another one for
What's his
that.
name? Justin's last name.
Yeah, just because for $7.
Young guy, old guy?
I think it's well worth $7.
You ready?
We're on record.
You guys ready?
Set. Council meeting,
No,
March
she's
2,
not gonna be here.
2010.
Oh, she doesn't, okay.
All right.
You guys ready?
The only bad thing is that they get offended.
You have to keep doing it.
All set? All set? All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order. If you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call. Councilor Cody.
Here.
Councilor Crafts.
Here.
Councilor Rochelle.
Here.
Councilor Lunt.
Here.
Councilor Mason.
Here,
Councilor Pomelo is excused. She's visiting her grandbaby. And Councilor Bowie is here. Okay, first item, please, Twyla.
As under public hearings, subdivision ordinance amendments.
These are just updates on bringing the subdivision ordinances and other ordinances up to compliance with our comprehensive plan.
So I'll open that public hearing. Comments from the public. Okay, I'll close that public hearing. Next item, please.
Under public hearing, site plan ordinance amendments.
I'll open that public hearing. Any comments on that one? Seeing none, I will close that public hearing. And the next one?
The last public hearing is under Board of Assessment Review Ordinance.
This is in compliance with your charter. In order to have a Board of Assessment, you must have an ordinance to follow. This was drafted by our attorney, and it's pretty straightforward. Lists years for members and all of that, so if you have any questions.
I'll open the public hearing. Any comments? Seeing none. I'll close that public hearing. Okay, next item, please, Twyla.
Under consent agenda, Order 2010-34, to approve the minutes of February the 2nd, 2010.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes of February 2nd, 2010.
I have a motion from Councilor Rochelle, a second from Councilor Crafts. All those in favor?
Order passed, 6-0.
Okay, next item, please.
Under council orders, resolutions, and ordinances, Order 2010-35, and ordinance, subdivision ordinance amendments, first reading.
Okay, council, this is our first reading of this ordinance. This is bringing ourselves in line with the comprehensive plan.
Yes.
I believe the planning board has
They have looked at it.
and approved it.
I don't believe they have approved it, have they, Mike? They have a public hearing, or did they have one?
For the subdivision,
Yes,
subdivision and site plan have both been passed through the
okay,
planning board.
thank you.
Okay, so the planning board has reviewed these and approved these changes. This is our first reading, so if council has questions on this without major changes, we can continue to go forward with the second reading. If there's major changes, we'll probably have to go back through the whole process again, but I would open it up to council for comments.
May we ask Mike, from the original reading to ordinances to what they had to be adapted to go along with the new program, were there many changes in either one of these? I mean, reading through, it's tough to know what, what's really means anything, what doesn't,
Right.
but.
I guess, on the subdivision ordinances, there were a lot more definitions added to the ordinance itself. If you will indulge me a minute, I'll show you the difference between our new ordinance and what the original looked like, so you'll have a better picture with it.
Well, before you go through that, Mike, if I understand it, the ordinance we have in front of us, all the new additions are underlined in your bold text. Everything that was deleted is taken out.
Correct.
So you can see the changes that were made to the existing ordinance.
And he's got statements or in parentheses of why it was, some of these are to comply with state law.
Right.
Some of them are just clarification issues.
Right.
Are there any highlighted things that we should be visiting or should be brought to our attention that stick out in this ordinance change?
I don't believe so, it's just more additions.
Pretty straightforward.
Like Michael was saying, there's a lot of deletions, but there's a lot more additions. And it gives us a better tool to work with.
I mean, I don't know about council, but I've read through it, and it's very thorough, and was done in my mind, was done very well. So, I think,
And our attorney has also seen this, so he's comfortable with that. And on some of the road material compaction, stuff like that, Public Works and our city engineer reviewed that and made comments, and so they're all comfortable with the changes as well.
any additional comments from council on this? Any comments from the public? Okay. I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we pass the first reading.
Very good. I have a motion from Councilor Mason, a second from Councilor Crafts. Do we have to do a roll call on this, Twyla, where it's an ordinance for first reading, or is it only the final passage?
Do, probably.
Okay. I think it's a roll call vote.
Okay. Roll call vote. Counselor Bowie?
Yay.
Counselor Mason?
Yes.
Counselor La Rochelle?
Yes.
Counselor Crafts?
Yay.
Counselor Cody?
Yay.
Counselor Lunt?
Yay.
Order passed, 6-0.
Thank you. Okay, the next item?
Order 2010-36, under ordinances, site plan ordinance amendments, first reading.
So, like the similar one, this is another one that's been updated to match our comprehensive plan and other minor changes, same form and layout, and has been approved by the planning board, reviewed and approved. Is that correct, Mike?
Correct. The site plan was reviewed and passed, I think it was last month. Steve was sat on that board while I was out sick, but
Yeah.
both
Yep.
ordinances were passed.
Great. Comments from council? Any comments from the public?
My name is Dot Fitzgerald, and I vowed, again, I wasn't going to say anything tonight, but the legislature, and I'm sure Dale is aware of this, there's a new culvert roads rules that the state is proposing that are going to be very cost prohibitive to a lot of towns. And I'm wondering if this comes in under the site plan ordinance amendment. I've got a copy of the rules here and an example of what it cost one town to replace a culvert and what it would cost if they had to comply with the new rules and regulations that the state is proposing.
Comment on that.
Yes, Dale.
I actually read some stuff on that today up in Augusta, and it was watered down, the bill was watered down so that now the municipalities only got to when they put a culvert in or replace culverts, then it has to go to a new standard on how they do it. It's not, they're not gonna have to replace all the culverts like originally a lot of people wanted, you know, the original bill was to replace them, but when they do get replaced, it has to go through a certain standard so the fish can swim through it and spawn back and forth either way.
Okay, does this apply to driveways in subdivisions or anything?
No.
It does not.
Now, this is just areas where there'd be trout or fish that wanna cross over a road where a brook goes through, places where fish can spawn.
Because the Maine Association of Realtors is asking us all to contact our legislators and urging them to vote no on this bill.
You could have a culvert in your driveway on a piece of real estate, you know, a driveway going in that a brook flows through of some body of water that they could spawn. But it was watered down to the point where only when it has to be replaced or new construction that meets the new standard. So it shouldn't create, you know, especially at this time with the shortfalls and the municipalities going through all their shortfalls, revenue shortfalls. So, to your answer to your question, I don't think it's gonna be any impact on us at all at this point.
Not yet.
Hopefully not. I'd really urge a no vote from you on it, please. Thank you.
Oh, it will be.
Any other discussion? Comments from council? Would entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the ordinance 2010-36 for the site plan ordinance.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilor Larochelle. I have a second from Councilor Crafts, and that will be a roll call vote, please, Twyla.
Yes. Counselor Crafts?
Yay.
And Counselor Cody?
Yay.
Counselor LaRochelle?
Yes.
Counselor Mason?
Yes.
Counselor Bowie?
Yay?
And Counselor Lunt?
Yes.
6-0. Passed.
Okay. And the next one, item, please, Twyla.
Order 2010-37, another ordinance. Board of Assessment Review, first reading.
Okay, this is to go along, this is the ordinance that our Board of Assessment has to follow.
That's correct. It's a procedure of terms and their duties and powers, and hopefully they won't be called to be used, but as we start down that road of reval, it's a good body to have in place.
Comments from council?
Steve, is this, with the ordinance, is there any state guidance that has to be followed when you actually have a?
Yeah, you have state law that has to follow. It's listed here, 30A.
So it just pretty much follows, puts
Follows
us
state
in,
procedure, yeah. If somebody has an appeal of an assessed value, this is the first body they go to, and this body decides if the appeal is valid or not. If they reject the appeal, they still have another step that they can go. I think it's the county, but hopefully we don't have to go that far. I've never seen it go that far.
so this ordinance pretty much puts in place our requirements to meet the state requirements
And charter.
and charter.
Have we manned that board yet?
We appointed.
You appointed four, and we have one more applicant. Huh? Four. Two left? Oh, good. So we have two more applications to fill the last position. So, with some good people, so it's encouraging, retired in the profession.
Any other comments from council? Comments from the public? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we accept the 2010-37 ordinance for a Board of Assessment Review ordinance.
I'll second that.
I have a motion from Councilor Larochelle, a second from Councilor Crafts for the first reading, so this will be a roll call vote, please.
Okay. Counselor Lunt?
Yes.
Counselor Cody?
Yes.
Counselor Crafts?
Yay.
Counselor LaRochelle?
Yes.
Counselor Mason?
Yes.
Counselor Bowie?
Yay.
Order passed, 6-0.
Okay, next item, please.
Order 2010-38, road posting.
This year, I think we're doing a little bit earlier than normal. We'll post 3 weeks early. because of the odd weather that we're having, and the roads are in pretty rough shape. So we're hoping to post these tomorrow. Just need to,
And this is the standard list of roads that we've been doing on a regular basis.
3 or 4 of them are newly rebuilt, they wanna keep them that way.
I don't think you hurt Route 9 anymore, could you?
no.
Could I ask Buttons a question about that? Do you feel, Buttons, that the, with the road postings, I don't know if it's as good a time as any to bring this up, that the calcium that's being used now keeps the top layer of road from freezing, and that's why it's pushing up and breaking up our roads so badly? Because the roads, I mean, you go everywhere, even on your major highways, are all stove up.
It's a necessary evil, Roger. The people in town are used to having the roads down a bit. We used to be able to do it with sand and salt. Salt is a factor also, but the calcium, yes, it mixes with the salt. It gets down in the cracks of the road, which doesn't let the immediate surface under the road to freeze. And yes, that does cause a lot of damage, to be honest with you. It's my opinion anyway.
And the sand and salt just won't cut it anymore?
It will, but you're gonna answer my phone.
Just seems that our roads is, we're fighting a losing battle.
The other part of that is DEP is now involved. They're saying that the sand is becoming a toxic going into our catch basins, which goes into the rivers, which is causing silt, and sooner or later, it's gonna cost me money to get rid of the sand that I sweep up every spring.
Mike, may I?
Yes.
Is that why Buttons, you see a lot of places very active in doing cracking, sealing all the cracks in the roads and stuff, fairly new pavement, just to try to keep the calcium from getting into the cracks?
It is, but that's also a very expensive venture for a very little outcome
Yeah.
as far as longevity goes.
It keeps the moisture from getting into there, so it lifts up and eaves
So,
as
you
well.
know, simple roads that have been rebuilt recently, like the bypass in Thompson through Brunswick, that's all stove to pieces. I mean, there's potholes. Mike, you travel it every day. It's all broke up badly.
I don't know what the answer is, fellas. I just do it the best that I can right now and fight it. I mean, there are more products out there than calcium. Again, it's costly. They make stuff out of even the molasses they say is better, but at what price?
But any of the products that will melt ice will keep it from freezing and will do the same.
Exactly.
Then the byproduct is gonna be the same at the end, so.
Exactly.
Right. Any other questions from council on the road postings? I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept the posted roads ordinance.
I'll second it.
I have a motion from Councilor Rochelle and a second from Councilor Cody. Any comments from the public? Final comments from council? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Order passed, 6-0.
Okay, next item, please.
Order 2010-39, fuel bids.
Kathy Mesmer and I partnered this year to put out, business director of the school, put out our fuel bids. We had 4 companies bid our fuel, and it's number 2 fuel, kerosene, diesel, and propane. They gave us a fixed price and a variable price. Most of these prices are good until the 9th, which is when the school department will have voted the night before, and they'll hold that price only till then. It's a very volatile market, as we all well know. These are the bids that came in, and they are up over last year's in all areas. I think we were paying $2.14 for our fuel oil last year, and you can see it's in around the $2.59 through most of it. So, what's your pleasure? We do have a local company, and she is here tonight, one representative, Down East Energy. We've been doing business with them for many years. Both the school and the town has. They happen to be a bit on the higher higher side, but
In some areas.
in some areas, yep. And we do lean towards our local business people more so.
Comments from council?
Is this, with the two combined, what is, any idea what the gallons is?
Big. I don't have the sheet in front of me, but it's a pretty large volume of fuel combined. Very large. I mean, the school fills up with a tanker truck. We
Yeah.
don't. We fill up with a regular panel truck because we don't need the capacity that the school has. I think they have a 10,000-gallon tank, so they fill up quite.
I guess my question would be, is there a minimum with the two? Did we give a guaranteed amount of fuel for this?
Yes, we
or
have to
was-
guarantee the amount of fuel that we use. So we give them what our usage is each time we put it out. And like we did last year, we did not burn as much fuel last year, so we dropped it down a little bit. But it's still, I mean, this could be you never know what the winter's going to bring us, so.
Dale?
Well, I think it's important that we know the usage and calculate the difference in the prices. I mean, you know, obviously, we're trying to find all the money we can this year
Absolutely.
to try to meet budget. So, you know, I want to see it to go to local business also, but we're in an awful bad situation this year, so I don't know what the usage is and what kind of a dollar amount it's gonna cost the taxpayer to give it to a local business. Or at least consider that.
May I get, Mike?
Yes.
One of the things that I do look at, Dale, is the idea that they are able to actually take us through pretty much all our needs and actually bid on all of them versus it's the only company that pretty much is doing it with a fixed amount. Again, I'm not sure how much that plays a big role, but hopefully it would actually, in the big scheme of things, play a role having one vendor for all services. There are a few of them that even if we went on one aspect of it, I'm not sure if that would actually change the bid process. And Steve, maybe you can answer that. Is if we went with the heating fuel from one vendor and the rest from down east, does that actually change the bidding? It was this bid, the bid that they gave
You can
here.
break it up any way you like. You know, if you want to buy your number 2 heating fuel from down east, but your kerosene from Dead River, that's really your choice.
I weren't sure if the bids were based on the idea of us buying
No.
all the.
No. But again, you know, let's just take a look at the number on the fixed price. We're talking a 1 cent less on between Dead River and down east. You're talking pretty equitable on Irving and down east. Weber, which is out of Lewiston or Auburn, is quite a bit less. But they didn't bid on anything else. I found that really odd, but they sent us what they sent us. And on the kerosene, down east is less money. Diesel on the fixed price is the only one that really bid diesel at a fixed price, so.
'Cause diesel is actually, I mean, for the price that they did give for diesel is a very respectable price, because diesel has been
Been pretty high.
quite a bit considerably higher than that
Yeah.
just recently, but.
So, but nobody has the figures on how much number 2 heating oil we use.
Well, they bid on the quantities that we use,
So,
so
if we broke this up, maybe they wouldn't stick to this price, or?
oh, no, if they decide, whoever you choose to go with, the school department has to vote on Monday night to do theirs, and they can choose who they like. I mean, we bid these together to try to get a better price, and, because we have a larger quantity. Whether that works or not, I don't really know.
Well, I guess then the question becomes, we bid this with the school, now let's just say, let's say council says we're gonna go with down east for heating fuel, and the school says, no, I'm going for Weber Energy. So now your volume has changed. So does that make your bids null and void?
That's what I
Because your volume quantities have changed with who you said you were
They
gonna bid
actually
with.
bid it by the building, each group. So when we looked at the bids today, they laid out each building and gave us a price on the quantity for that building.
So is it,
So they're bidding individual
Well,
buildings.
so,
quantities.
okay, so if I looked at, because I don't have the information in front of me, if I looked at the library building, I'm gonna get $2.59.7 for Down East Energy, for the MTM, for the library,
Yep.
for the town office. They're all the same number, for every town building.
Yeah,
Is it 259?
and they were the same for all the school buildings, if I remember correctly.
Okay, but I guess my question is, and I'm not trying to put any one of our participants in, on the hot seat here, but if the town, let's say the town's using 20,000 gallons and the school's using 20,000 gallons, right? I think where Dale's going is if the town goes with Down East for 20,000 and the school goes with Weber for 20,000, does the 2.59 still stand?
Yes.
Even though we've decreased our volume by half, which is what they bid on?
Yep, there's nothing nothing in the bid specs that forced anybody to lock into specific companies for specific stuff.
So it isn't volume, it's per building.
That's the way,
It
that's
isn't
the way,
total volume then, okay, so that answers that, so.
So, I
Well, I mean, we don't have to prove this tonight, right? I would like to see a breakdown on each building and see what the numbers, how much we can save or what the difference is gonna cost us. I mean, this, you know, you're talking, we really don't have enough information here.
Right, we need to know the absolute dollar value of
Exactly.
savings.
but
It'd be worth going with a local company if it's a couple $1,000s, but
Yeah.
not if it's $20,000.
Not only that, but I'd be curious to know is if we definitely went with one company, if we would drastically save by joining the school because of the whole volume. Because, you know, we're not, it's like.
the bid price wasn't any different for the school or the town. They give us, this is the price they gave for all of our buildings. So there was no change in what the school was getting for a price for their buildings compared to what we are getting for a price for our buildings.
So what are we gaining by joining with the school?
Nothing.
And unless we compared it, doing it separately, we don't know that at this point.
I mean, I'm not trying to be a
Well,
pain
let me
in
give
your
you an
side.
example. Last year, the school put their bid out prior to us doing it.
Right,
Okay? They got a lower price than we did,
right,
okay, from the same company.
right.
Okay, so, yes, there is a difference, you know? If you don't do it together and do it separately, and we don't do it at the same time, it really depends on the market and what they're buying it for, is how they price it. So if you don't do it together, you may not get the savings if you do it separately, because we didn't last year. We paid more. They were paying $2.09 a gallon for number two heating, and we paid $2.14. That's a big difference.
that was just a timing issue more than it was.
Well, I don't know. I think it's a market issue more than anything else.
But wait a minute. Now you're telling me something completely different than you told me a minute ago. You said it was per building, and now you're saying.
That's how they bid it, per building.
This is not making any sense whatsoever. Okay, if there's a total volume, and they're bidding on the total volume, because they're saving money, that's one thing.
Well,
But
to
now
be
you're
honest with you, I can't tell you if they're bidding on the total volume.
Okay, then
The
so we don't-
volume is larger that they're bidding on, so they're purchasing more. But that, if you want to know that answer to that question, I guess you'd have to ask the dealer. Do you get a better price when you buy volume?
I'd be happy to answer several
Okay,
questions.
so go ahead.
Yes.
But this is how the bid specs go out, just like they always have.
We certainly look at the volume. I think it behooves the town to go jointly. This year, we did, each building was lined out for us. Two of the competitors gave their prices by building. Two of the competitors responded with a letter with a price with no disclaimers, so I would assume it is, like you said, for every building. All of us, maybe except one, gave the disclaimer. I have a 24 hours on this bid, and I gave the disclaimer that I may need to adjust the prices on March 9th, depending on the volatility of the market. It could go either way, but at the closing bell today, it was up.
So I got a question then, so we approve the town side and they approve the school side, and it's two different companies, they don't affect the price then. So it really isn't volume.
I would stand by it because I voted it, I listed it by building.
Okay.
Next year, I probably would say we withhold the right to accept or reject any building determined on how you put it out. One of the other things I am going to stand here and say, I am a local company. We do register vehicles in town. We have a lot of employees here that live in town.
Well, I agree.
And I believe you have a local buying preference ordinance. I think we put that in when we built this building.
10%.
Yep. Yep.
I would just remind you of that.
Follow up. So my next question is, if we got together with a school and decided we want to put all our volume with you, does that get us a better price?
That's exactly what we did this year.
But you're just telling me
I
though,
gave the same price to every building.
Right, what I heard Mrs. Adams say is that if we go separate ways, the town and school, next year, when she bids it, based on that, she's gonna put a qualifier in the contract that says, I'm gonna change my bid based on your volume change, but she's saying that this year she will honor it
Okay.
because she bid it by building this way,
Right.
not knowing that the school and the town may deviate from who they go with.
Not everybody filled out the same template. You may have some general assistance accounts that get 50-gallon deliveries on a same-day notice, or you may have an 8,000-gallon drop at the high school.
Yep.
So we sort of look at everything and factor it in, and we did it by product. So much for number 2, so much for kerosene, diesel, and propane.
well, I say if we have a 10% in there, then it's obvious that we need to go with Down East Energy.
Yeah, because it would
We've had a
actually
very good working relationship with Down East Energy, very good.
I don't think it was a company discretion here, I think, or
No.
anything of that nature.
No,
I
no.
think we're just
Oh.
trying to understand the bidding
Yeah.
process.
No.
I don't have any problem with it then. I understand now. Thank you. Thank you.
Additional comments from council? Discussions? Comments from the public? Michelle, please.
Was the bidding open?
Can you,
Can't hear me. Was the bidding process open, or was this done closed bids coming in
No,
from
it was open to the
competitors?
public. It happened at 2 o'clock today.
No, the competitors that submitted their bids.
we have a list of suppliers throughout the region, and we send out every year a list to, up to that, whoever the company is, and it goes from Bangor, Portland, whoever wants in on it. Not everybody responds back. This is the first year I've seen Irving on the list, but the school department has had different people apply or put the bid in, and that's why I think we saw somebody different this year. Last year, I think it was only Down East and Dead River that submitted bids.
Right. I
So it
apologize.
varies
I think
each
you're
year.
misunderstanding what I'm asking. Hold on, because I didn't interrupt you. She had commented during her statement about how other competitors bid, the breakdowns of how they bid. If she's a competitor bidding, how does she know how those other competitors bid? She should only have knowledge of her own bid, right?
They were open publicly today at 2
Yeah.
o'clock.
Okay, that's what I was trying to find out.
That's
is
what
how
I-
did the other?
Because
did
it
the
was
other competitors
open to
know?
the public at 2 o'clock for everyone to examine all bids.
Okay. And that's what I was trying to find
Right.
out, was how that went about, because normally we don't hear, like one competitor talking about how another one had bid, and so some of us were just kind of wondering how that knowledge would come out there.
Well, not all people go to the bid openings either.
That's rare.
Right, which
for
is
the
why
most-
it's helpful for everybody else, I guess,
Right.
just
That's
to
a
have
big
an
job.
understanding of that. So I apologize, I didn't
Yep.
ask
No?
what I meant. Thanks.
Any other comments? Mr. Bauer?
Just with the council's knowledge, is the water department able to purchase fuel through these bids? And because we're using between 3,000 and 4,000 gallons of propane per year, and I'd just like to know whether or not we can get in on that or not. We weren't asked in the beginning, so.
That's,
As far as, I
once they
think,
award the bid, we can ask the contractor if they will honor that same price for the water department.
Any bidding, any negotiating we've done in the past, we've done independently.
Yep.
We do not buy any fuel oil anymore, we only buy propane for
Yep.
contamination purposes.
we can look into that. Okay, I would entertain a motion.
I would actually make a motion, and for a few different reasons, but to go along with Down East Energy for the heating, the kerosene, diesel, and propane. I think this year, we've been prompting Steve and with the school department to actually work together to try to purchase as a unit. If you do look at the prices, the scale goes across. If you do give the local business their discount as they would as far as for bidding process, it does come across lower. The diesel, I believe, actually it's a pretty fair price in what I've seen from diesel. I think it's not gonna be much cheaper than this. If anybody's been buying diesel lately, it's up around a $3 gallon price is not unusual, so, with the propane. So, and I would hope, as we move forward with any town process, anybody that we're purchasing, because the towns, regardless how we're looking, it's still all coming out of the same pocket, whether it's town, school, water department. I really hope that we put any bidding option together and the amount that you would use, hopefully that could be worked into a bid, because, again, anytime we can save money buying as a bulk, I think that's the key thing to go with.
You're saying fixed too, right?
To go with the fixed price, yeah. I really don't want to guess as time goes through, especially on a lot of these, and if they seem higher than last year, but they're definitely less than they were 2 years ago or 3 years ago when we're looking at $4 or $4.50. So, I mean, even though the prices are up from last year, they're definitely down from what they were a couple of years back. So, my motion would be to go with a fixed price for Down East Energy for the heating, number 2 heating fuel, kerosene, diesel, and propane, with the hopes that the school would actually follow the same idea.
I'll second that.
I have a motion from Councilor Rochelle, a second from Councilor Crafts. Any further discussion from council? All those in favor?
Order passed, 6-0.
Very good. Next item, please.
Under other business, town manager's report.
We'll talk a little bit about Route 9 on one aspect. Mr. Bauer and I were invited to talk to Governor Baldacci's Chief of Staff, Jane Lincoln, and in that meeting was Commissioner David Cole from the MDOT, and along with their attorney and several other representatives from the MDOT. I thought we had very good dialogue. I think we got some very good clarifications on the spending split. We talked about a 90% that the town would pay and 10% that MDOT would pay. In the end, I think the MDOT contribution is probably going to be higher. We ended the meeting with asking them to give us specific costs of what they were contributing. And so, since they kept saying it was a higher amount than 10%, so they will provide us with that price breakdown, and hopefully it shakes out to they're doing better than what this 90%, 10% split is. So I thought it was a good meeting, and we came away with pretty much the same opinion, so that was good. And I want to thank Mr. Bauer for attending. It was good to have one person in the room I knew, along with all the DOT. Rick Green and I, the superintendent, sat down last Friday. We had some very good dialogue about where our budget process is and what we're looking at. Rick and I are, again, we're facing some very serious revenue shortfalls, along with some reason the healthcare costs just continue to climb, and on both of us. So one of the things that we're going to continue to work together to try to find ways to save money, as we will with the water district. One of the things that he and I thought after we do our budget presentations on the 16th, that part of one of our work schedules is sit down with the council and the school committee and just talk openly about what's best for the town of Lisbon. And I think this year it's an unusual economy, to say the least. And I think we as a group and school committees, we need to look at what's best for the town of Lisbon. And we're both facing some very serious dilemmas. So if that's okay, I'll have Rick talk to the school committee, and we'll coordinate a day on one of maybe the off weeks and sit down so we have an opportunity to really bang out the numbers and see where we are. Okay. Again, we sat down tonight, Ryan, myself, our new finance director, Jessica Malloy. We met with the water commissioners and Paul Adams, and we're looking for ways we can possibly work together to save money. We're all facing cost increases, and we're reaching out to each other and I think that's a real positive thing. During the meeting that Rick and I had, we talked about putting out a survey to the taxpayers. And he and I collaborated on that, and we came up with questions that both pertain to the school and also pertain to the town. And we put it on our website, and I hope if the public who is watching will go to our website and take this survey and answer these questions. And there's a section there for comments and recommendations. We need some guidance, I think. It would be nice to hear from the public to find out exactly what they think about what direction we should go. The school's looking at cuts, we're looking at cuts. It's going to have some major impacts on services and education for our children. So take a look and weigh in if you are a citizen. The Tippetop property on Village Street, just to bring you up to date on that, that's been going back and forth through the courts. It's still going back and forth through the courts. Our attorney met with, they were called in by a judge. He's been inundated with documents, same as we have. And that basically was said, updated on what we were, and there's still a court date being set to make where the judge will make some final rulings, but he has advised Mr. Tippetop to get an attorney versus trying to do this on his own. And we don't know if that's what he's doing or not. So also, last Thursday, Chief Brooks was invited to present to a tri-selectmen's meeting, Leeds, Green, and Turner. They do that quarterly. They wanted to get an update, just as he did for this council and other members at other communities, on the dispatch. And he had quite a full room of selectmen from both communities and other people in the room who weren't elected officials to listen to where we were in the process. Commissioner Greenwood was there, and also Commissioner Labonte was there. And they had put off their vote to make recommendations, as we had thought they would that prior Monday, and they wanted to wait until everybody had a chance to weigh in from the different communities. And they met on this Monday in Turner, and I just, it's kind of off the agenda, but it's part of mine. I'd like him to update you on this, what happened yesterday, so you have a clear understanding from the chairman of that committee exactly what transpired. Okay, David?
Yesterday, the Androscoggin Regional Communications Center Study Committee met for approximately 2.5 hours at the Turner Town Office. As bringing you up to date from when we last met at workshop and we talked about that, this project, we've now had a total of 9 meetings as a committee. And the Quad Town meeting that Mr. Eldridge is referring to, that I was asked to attend and give the same report that I gave to you folks here at our workshop, that was attended by the boards of selectmen from Leeds, Green, Turner, and Sabattis. I believe when we had our workshop, there was 1 selectman here from Sabattis. At that meeting, I think 3 of them were there.
Yes.
At least 3 of them were there. I didn't know all the players in the room. All selectmen from those communities. But I gave them the same update that I gave you folks as to where the committee's work was at that time. And if you recall at our workshop, as I was giving the report, I was trying to stay away from telling the people present at that meeting what my recommendation was going to be as a member of that committee, because the whole committee had still not gotten to the point where we were going to make that final vote. I know that the fire chief from Auburn and the police chief from Auburn and the fire chief from Lewiston gave the same updated reports to their respective city councils, and they did the same. I attended the Lewiston City Council meeting, and as they were giving their presentation, they also did not come right out and indicate as to which proposal that they were going to be recommending. The troublesome thing that occurred at the quad meeting of those 4 towns, and it was a packed room, is that Commissioner Labonte attended that meeting. And Commissioner Labonte is a member of this committee, and during the meeting, he told those selectmen from those 4 towns that he was going to be recommending the entire dispatch function go to Lewiston, Auburn. And he went on further and told those selectmen from those 4 towns that if it was decided not to go to Lewiston, Auburn, that Lewiston, Auburn could sue the county for that service. So I don't know if that was a strong-arm tactic or I don't know what it was. But here you have a member of a committee who's supposed to be still neutral until the committee gets to that position. Yet he announces his position and then goes a step further and says, and if you don't, could happen to you or to us. I just sat there in total disbelief that that had occurred. It was not my meeting. I was invited, so I couldn't really say what I wanted to say at the time. I'm giving you this report tonight because I'm comfortable in doing it. At our meeting yesterday, all 3 commissioners were there. So I don't have to wait and hold off on my final report to the commissioners because they were all there present when the vote was taken, so they already know what the outcome is. So I'm not breaking any rules here now by telling the Lisbon Town Council what happened yesterday. We got to the vote on what to do with the communications for the county, what our recommendations would be. 11 people on the committee. One of those now, remember the history here, Commissioner Labonte, as the other 2 commissioners, wanted a non-political committee. I had this discussion with you when we had the workshop. They wanted just the users to form this committee. The fire and police personnel from across the county to work on this with no political influence. But then when the process began, Commissioner Labonte got himself appointed to the committee because reason being the commissioners made the committee, so he felt a commissioner should be on it. So well and good. At the October 19th meeting, I'm going to give you a little history here. The October 19th meeting, Commissioner Labonte brought everybody up to date on what the resolution was from the county commissioners to the committee on what their task was. And he indicated that the short-term goal for fixing the dispatch situation in the county included the Sheriff's Department, Livermore Falls, and Lisbon in the short-term goal. Long-term goal was at some point in time in history we would incorporate the entire county into a unified dispatch. That was at the October 19th meeting. At October 26th meeting, Commissioner Labonte now states that Lisbon's not an option. That Lisbon was not expandable, so Lisbon was no longer an option in the process, where a week before we were part of the group. And also at the October 26th meeting, I as chair created 2 subcommittees to do further work, one of which was governance, to develop the bylaws for this communications center. And the Lewiston Auburn representatives on the committee offered up the opportunity to have the county merge with Lewiston Auburn. So I created a subcommittee to study that proposal, and Commissioner Labonte volunteered to be a member of that committee. On November 9th meeting, again, we were having discussions on short-term and long-term. And now Commissioner Labonte says that Lisbon was not and never was part of the short-term plan. This just, well, most of you know me pretty well, and I popped on that one. I popped right at him. And I asked him, how can you, in the 3rd meeting of this committee, after the first meeting you said we were, now in the 3rd meeting you say we're not, where's that coming from? No response. He didn't respond. The other committee people present made it clear that Lisbon was part of the original short-term plan. Now, February 18th, we've gone through the holidays, things slowed down a little bit. February 18th, Commissioner Labonte sends an email to all the committee members. Now, remember the very beginning here. The commissioners wanted to keep politics out of this. Here I am talking to the town council. But the commissioners wanted to keep politics out of this process. They just wanted the users, the fire and police personnel, to work on this. Commissioner Labonte sends an email. Just putting this out for consideration, as I can understand that for some chiefs, selecting a recommendation may put them in an uncomfortable political situation, and that I don't believe the commissioners intended we ask each of you as customers to serve on this committee. Whatever. So, being the chairman of the committee that these commissioners appointed me to, and prior to appointing me, they asked my town manager if I'd do it, and he said, yes, I would. So, there I was. I responded to Commissioner Labonte's email. Commissioner Labonte, I cannot speak for all of the members of the committee. However, I do not believe that the chiefs of the municipal departments who sit on the committee are concerned about being put into an uncomfortable political position. As for the county employees on the committee, and there are two, the sheriff and the EMA director sit on that committee. As for the county employees on the committee, I have worked with both of them for many years, and I trust that they will not let the political climate affect their decision. However, I am concerned that they have now been put into this uncomfortable political position as a result of this email sent by you, an Androscoggin County Commissioner. And shortly after I sent this, he sent an email out apologizing. He didn't mean to do it. Well, he'd already planted the seed. We had our meeting, like I said, then we had our meeting in Leeds and Turner after this, and this is when he then says what he's going to do, and he tells everybody that Lewis and Auburn can sue us if we don't. Then we come to our meeting yesterday, and I decided as a chairman that seeing the county commissioners got me into this mess, that I'd let the county commissioner speak first. And so I asked Mr. Labonte to give his position first, and he did, and it was very short, and which was his first choice was to go to LA, and if that didn't work, then his second choice would be to come to Lisbon. And then I went right down the roster. The two county employees that sat on that committee, both of them, their first choice was to come to Lisbon. And their second choice, which is, when I say first choice, second choice, short-term, long-term. Short-term is a 5-year window to fix what's going on now with the county, because they just cannot do anything with that county building. All of you know what's going on up there. They can't do anything with that county building, but they've got to do something with their comm center. So both of the county employees on the committee recommended that the short-term fix was to come to Lisbon, and that the long-term fix was a unified joint effort at a later date down the road. Final tally was one member, first choice was to stay with the county. Short-term was stay with the county, long-term was unified, countywide unified. 4 members of the committee, one of which was Commissioner Labonte, voted to go to LA. 3 of them, that was their only choice, LA. And 6 of the members of the committee all voted short-term fix was to come to Lisbon, and that the long-term fix was a unified, trying to figure out a unified piece. Some of the points we raised, and I also raised it, was that, and again, you folks are as familiar with this as anybody else, Androscoggin County, with the system that it is right now, the governance structure that they have up there, they're not ready to absorb a $2.6 million unified communications budget. they had this idea of creating, well, as Mr. Bowie knows, because he sat on the budget committee, they were going to create a separate department, and they wanted to, not they, at least one commissioner we know of, wanted this to, they wanted us to move right into LA's basement, the Auburn Central Fire Station basement, and have the county take over that operation. That total operation would cost about $2.6 million. And at some point in time, that budget would be totally absorbed by the county. LA was telling us that, and this is unofficial, but we were being told from the LA representatives on the committee that LA would continue to pay their flat rate as they are now, $950,000 each for 5 years. But then after 5 years, that's when the, buy now, pay later. That's how that worked, in my opinion. Quick summary, 641 was the recommendation to bring the short-term fix to Lisbon. The downside of this is that now it goes to the county commissioners, and there's only 3 county commissioners, and you know how their districts are broken up. Some of you had asked at the workshop, how can you help? Well, I think some of that's in your court now on lobbying to make this work. I do want to add at the meeting in Leeds, we got steered off course. Mr. Labonte steered the whole system off course and pretty much told everybody that the problems with the county government is the budget committee. Yeah, he did. He got everybody to believe that the problems with county government is the budget committee, and that they as commissioners have no authority to do anything. And I'm like, I didn't say anything because it wasn't my place to say anything, but I'm like, what is this man telling these people? But that all occurred. So what's going to happen down the road again? I have to give a report at a future date to the commissioners. And I expect there's going to be public hearings on that. According to Commissioner Greenwood, the chairman, he did indicate that there were going to be public hearings on that. Commissioner Greenwood, at the conclusion of yesterday's meeting, did come up to me and told me that he would do everything he can to support that 6-vote majority. But again, as you know, he is a minority on that county commission because of the way the districts are broken up, and it's going to be a struggle.
Just for the audience and for television, can you explain how the districts are broken up?
Our commissioner, Randy Greenwood, represents the towns of Lisbon, Sabattis, Wales, Turner, Greene, Leeds, Livermore, and Livermore Falls.
In Durham.
And Durham. The Durham representative on our committee also recommended to come to Lisbon as short-term fix too, so I thought I'd give that plug for our neighbor. Commissioner Labonte represents the city of Auburn, the towns of Mechanic Falls, Minot, and Poland. And Commissioner Marcus represents solely the city of Lewiston. 3 commissioners in Androscoggin County. So I guess I can entertain questions. I don't know how you want to deal with this.
I'm assuming this will come out in the paper probably tomorrow or something.
Well, the press called me today, and
the vote wasn't formal, right?
no, one of the representative from Lewiston made a motion, and the motion passed that my report to county commissioners will basically be an open-ended document with no real direction or resolution. I've been thinking about how I'm going to write that. So I'll find a way to put something in there and I know where you folks are on this, so we're all on the same page. We just got to figure out how to get it done, but now it's going to be at the county level, and that's going to be the struggle.
Well, please let us know when you're ready to present that final report, and maybe as many of us that can attend will attend when you at least give that report and show some support.
Mr. Boyd, you're very familiar with the room the county commissioners hold their meeting in.
I am.
And if everybody from Androscoggin County at your level wanted to attend that meeting, 90% of you would be in the hallway.
Right, but they can move they can move their meeting up to the library law room where we hold the budget meetings.
If it's available that day. We've tried that before and Superior Court took it over.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks.
Anything else on your report, Steve?
Just the Longchamps and the Water District proposal. Do you want to get into that?
Sure.
Just briefly, the Longchamps proposal is basically a discussion about the Route 9 project. K&K was the contractor that was awarded the bid through the state. The award was not part of, or the water district work was not part of that bid process. So we had asked them to give us a idea that we wouldn't hold their feet to the fire on, but give us an idea of cost to install the water pipe, and they gave us a number of around $35 a foot. We're providing all the material, the pipe, and all the extra stuff that goes in the ground. And they came back, we met with K&K several weeks ago. They said they'd get a price to us last week, which they did, and it was more like $40 a foot to install. So Ryan, in his due diligence, went to their contractor that does a lot of their sewer and does a lot of work for the water department, Longchamps, and asked them, this is what we are doing, can you give us a price? And he gave them the material costs. They did not have any insight into what our bid was from K&K, and they came in around $85,000, I think you all were copied on that, $85,000 less. The quagmire that kind of throws it in is it's, now you've got two contractors working on the same site, but it's a local contractor. Nobody else in Lisbon has done these kinds of projects. Ryan and I have talked with the commissioners about it, and I think we're all in agreement that we would like to have Longchamps do this. We just need to make, we have to go back to to our attorney, thank goodness he's coming home tomorrow from vacation, to make sure that everything is above board and transparent. But Ryan threw it out and wants guidance from the council. I think that's what we talked about with the commissioners in terms of what direction you would recommend for us.
I think that's pretty self-explanatory.
Well, I got to hear it from you first.
You're hearing it.
I would go to the next move and talk to the attorney and make sure that this can be done, and if we can save 85,000, I'm on board.
I am too.
May I?
And the
Yes.
commissioners said tonight that they are on board as well. So I'll give Ryan the direction to pursue that.
Just a minute, Fernandez.
I mean, just to be kind of on the same page as, when you're looking at Route 9, we're actually looking for what they're doing. There's a portion of where the pipe's going in that they're not going to be reconstructing, I don't believe. They're not going all the way down to Extramart. K&K is not going all the way to the Extramart. So there's a portion, there's probably a 3/4 mile stretch of road that would be done that really wouldn't be overlapping anybody, I don't believe, right?
How it was laid out to us when we
It
met with
starts
K&K.
at Frost Hill.
It starts at Frost Hill, but the pipe, not being an excavator and knowing how the whole process works, you would assume that they'd be tearing up the road and digging the trenches to get all this work done. Well, in fact, that's not how K&K had planned to do it. They had told us at the meeting that first they would dig down and all the pipes would be laid for the water system, and they'd move up the road. And once we got certain sections done, then K&K would start from the beginning and start ripping the road and doing the work that they need to do behind that. So any digging up below that or above that water line would be done again. So the way, listening to that, it sounds like nobody's going to be in anybody's way because the water line is going to be laid first. So I think it's tax dollars, keep it in town. Longchamps has a very good history. They've done a lot of water projects before and sewer projects. They are the contractor that both departments use for any big work that we can't do. I think it's a good.
Their bid was very thorough.
Yeah.
I was impressed with their bid that they submitted to the town, was very thorough.
And
far
they
more
actually
so
bid
than-
it two ways. They bid it without the material, which is the way
Right.
we had it with K&K,
Mhm.
to compare apples and apples, and then they gave us a bid with the material. And we're just looking at how much we end up buying the material for, but I think based on, from Ryan and from the water department, the price they got for material is probably as cheap as you can get it, so it makes sense for them to just do the
And
whole.
we still have to meet with the DOT to work out the logistics if this is a direction we're going to go, but.
One more question. The Upland project, has that been awarded by any contractor yet?
No, but there was some talk with the commissioners that can we get the same price or better by either buying the material for it now or, maybe looking at having them do that. But that's kind of on their nickel, so they'll kind of work that with the
And the
coordination.
DOT has talked about that project and bidding that out as a whole package. But that kind of puts us, in Ryan's opinion, and I respect that, at the mercy of takes it out of our control and gives it to the DOT. And the DOT will always go with the cheapest, they have to, I think by statute, go with the cheapest bidder, as long as it's apples and oranges and the company's capable of doing it. But I think since the water project is our project, we can bid it separately. So, and
Yeah, Roger?
Would you like to add anything to this, Mr. Bauer? Or?
I totally agree with what's been said. We've discussed it, and the only thing I brought up tonight when we were discussing is if we can buy the pipe for Upland Road and get it cheaper or lock the price in. I think this is the time to do it so that we're not paying more money for it future down the road.
Right.
And if we get a volume discount, which we all know what that is,
Yeah.
it makes sense to buy it now. Just a matter of storing it until we get ready to put the pipe in, which I understand is gonna be this summer.
yeah.
Good.
So council's okay if everything
Go in that
works out all
direction.
right?
All for it.
Excellent,
And I,
thank you.
and I really think council has the right to say we can go with Longchamps based on that. I just want to make sure that we don't have to follow any additional bidding process or procedures, so I recommend checking with Roger.
Okay,
Okay?
very good, thank you.
Anything else?
Nope, that's all for me.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. Okay, next item, please, Twyla.
Is audience participation. At this time, those in the audience who wish to address the council may come forward. Please use the microphone.
In the audience, yes, sir, Rich.
I'd like to speak to the topic that Chief Brooks was talking about. Now, I'm not knowledgeable on it as he is, but I've heard him speak on it a couple of times. And I'm just speaking as a citizen of Lisbon. For a process that in the beginning was desired to remain politic-free, it sure does seem like somebody's stirring the political bowl. And when he breaks down the districts, it makes it clear in my mind what's going on up there. And I gotta just say, that I don't like seeing the chief here steamrolled in this process, or the town of Lisbon, or anybody else. Now, I would like to commend the chief for his restraint with his frustration in this process, but if it were up to me, I'd tell him to forget about his restraint in this process and speak his mind whenever he needs to.
Oh, he's done that.
Thank you. Any other comments? Dot?
Two things, while Mr. Bauer is still here, and the Route 9 project has been discussed, and the water lines and everything, has there been any progress in extending the water line up Route 9 beyond the Upland Road to include some of the well, properties that have contaminated wells. Any discussion, any progress?
We had some discussion briefly on Friday with the DOT. I think there's going to be further discussion. They're talking about being able to drill wells versus extend the water line. I think what we need to do is look at what the cost is going to be, and we haven't done that yet, to extend it up that far. And if we're saving money by buying bulk and coming in at a better price, we might be able to do that. I mean, we don't know yet.
And if you drill wells, what is the, is there any guarantee that the new wells won't be contaminated as well?
Well, that's my concern, and they didn't seem to have an answer for that, the DOT. So there'll be more discussion.
And as someone with a drilled well up there, we had to go down like 400 feet to get water, so it's not an easy spot.
Right.
From my knowledge of properties up in that area, you have to go down really, really deep to get water, and the water flow is not that great, no matter how deep you go. So, just...
Highest point in town.
Agree.
Yeah, I agree.
Second, any progress on changes to the town charter to put the town budget out to vote? Perhaps, I've been hearing at previous meetings that, what is the town's feeling on this? And there is what is it that?
Survey?
Survey online now. Maybe put a survey online for citizens to answer that question as well. Would citizens like to have the town budget go to a referendum vote as the school budget does? I think a lot of people would like to see it, and I'd like to see this on a survey and see what the results would be.
Do that.
Any comment?
I think it's a fair,
Yeah, I'd like to see it put up there. See what people feel.
Time is going by, and
Is that
it
the
needs,
council's wish?
I don't have any problem with it.
decision
They give us
needs to be
chance.
done, and it needs to be made very quickly.
Anytime we can have
Yeah.
public input, I think it's a good thing for the town, so.
It's, one of the things I'd like to see, Dot, is and again, I'll comment on what my feelings of the survey as far as for what we're looking for now is, with the process that we're getting into at this point in time and not be able to, regardless what the survey would come back at this point in time, that we'd be able to change. I do agree, it'd be nice to have input so we can move forward with it. I think at this point in time through the budget season, the survey that's out there and some of the information we're having is really important at this point in time. I do agree that it'd be nice to put out a survey and get information, and I think we can do it probably, towards the end of budget season or at the end of budget season, so we have the information to move forward for whatever voting we need to do this summer to make it changes or however that comes about. I guess my point is the idea that I think it's important, but if you don't see it within the next few weeks or through budget season as far as on a survey, I'm not sure exactly the time frame that you're looking for, but I think there's some really important.
Whatever time frame is necessary. I
Yeah.
don't mean to interrupt, but,
Yep.
Time is going on, and this
Yep.
subject was brought up months ago.
Yep.
And you people are sitting on it and ignoring it.
We were talking about bringing it to a vote, and we said, well, we're not gonna have a vote until November. Well, now we're having one in April. Why not do it in April and give the people if they don't want it, they'll vote it down.
Exactly.
They do want it. It's what the people want, and that's what we should be doing, is what the people want. I don't see why we keep avoiding this. April's a good time. We're voting on the school issues. Put that out there and let the people vote. If the townspeople want it, so be it. And if they don't, so be it.
It's too late to do it for April.
Right.
Isn't it?
Ballots are
Why is it too late?
Ballots are already printed.
Print another ballot, put with it.
You have to have it in by the certain deadline, the 45 days prior to.
So what would happen if we was to do a citizens movement on it and get it into the town? We got 30 days. That would make the,
It still
Timeframe.
wouldn't fit
A
that
separate
timeframe
ballot.
for April, but
well, you got 30 days to answer it though, right?
I don't remember it verbatim, but if you got a petition with the right number of signatures. It comes to the council, and the council has to act on it in, I think, 10 days or 7 days or something like that, and then it would follow the voting process from there. So there would still be,
Own process all the
Right.
way through.
right.
Separate.
You mean you can't, the council cannot do a charter change without a petition from the townspeople?
Charter changes have to be voted on by the public.
Yeah.
They're quite specific, too. You can't just put something, you have to know what you're voting on, correct?
Yep.
And the council, if it's going to come from the council has to vote to do that. And you have to go through a public hearing process. If they choose to address it, there has to be a public hearing process done, and there's a time frame that you have to follow. And then it would, once, if the council approves it to go forward, then you set a date within the timeframes of whatever the charter says to go to the public.
Well, the way the present council is moving, we'll be lucky to have it on a referendum vote and a charter change in 5-10 years.
Yes, sir. Don?
I had one question. Now I have one question and one comment. The question is a simple one. I know when Route 9 is happening. When is Upland Road projected? Is it this year? I thought it was
Yes.
this year.
I think we heard that it was supposed to be the summer of 2010.
Yeah. It goes out to bid in May, and usually it's a 30-day bid process. Once they award the bid, they start the project.
My comment was, we've just had it brought up again about the voting by the town. I just wanted to give you my personal opinion for what it's worth. I personally think the town-wide voting on the situation as a normal, on the budget as a normal process is a bad idea. I think it could work under very stringent conditions, and the conditions being that we at least get as many voters voting on that as we got in gubernatorial elections. If we did not get that, then it doesn't represent the town. And I think we have a form of government that the entire town voted on, a councilor form of government that makes council decisions. And there is a provision, as I understand it, within the charter for any citizens group to come up with the change to the charter, however they choose to make that charter. It's apparent to me that the council has made its decision. I have seen no motions, no voting on bringing anything up. So I think the council has already spoken on how they feel about it, and I applaud that. I also think that if we're going to have some sort of motion and voting by the town, we have to be very, very careful not to do what's been done with the school budget by the state level. I realize that we, as a town, vote on the school budget up or down, but we also follow a practice that other towns have, and that's if we don't like it, it gets voted down. Then we vote it down again because it's too high, or we vote it down because it's too low, and whatever small group gets out here to vote on it is the one that carries the day. I think it should never be that way, should never have been that way. And perhaps it's a good idea to vote on a school budget as a town, but not in minority groups. We might as well have a town meeting forum where 100 people show up to do that. So, food for thought, just my thoughts.
Thank you, Don. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to second him. I don't need to get up, but as far as the school end, I agree.
Thank you, Kathy. Mary Ann? Yes, please.
I've been out of the loop for a little while. Do we still have budget meetings and the public is welcome to attend? Open
Yes.
to the public?
All the workshops are open to the public. They are announced just like any other meeting. And then by charter, we have to have a formal public hearing where the school and the town presents their budgets and gets questions and hopefully get the right answers from either the town or the school. So it's still a very public forum if they choose to attend.
So the public can have input, they can come to the council meetings and give input there also.
Yes.
And we've elected you folks to represent our town and take good care of us, and I hope that we can all be respectful. I certainly applaud Don, who I don't know, for what he said. I think you guys are doing a great job.
Chief?
Totally different subject.
Dispatching?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. Recently, probably at least, I'm going to say probably at least twice in the last 3 months, resolutions have come before the council to approve drug forfeiture money. Okay? The last two that were brought before you, I'm bringing this to your attention now, and I'm hoping that our local state representatives' ears are really tuned into this. There's a disturbing trend that has begun. About 2+ weeks ago, which Mr. Eldridge is familiar with, I brought it to his attention then, I received a call from the Attorney General's office. The Attorney General's office has a special prosecutor for drug cases. And we had a drug forfeiture. It was a small amount, but it was still $684, a drug forfeiture on a drug case that the party pled guilty to. And the court, in its decision, ruled that the drug forfeiture money would be allocated to go to the state to pay the fine. Well, deja vu. Today, it's still on my phone. I receive a late afternoon call from the Attorney General's office on that last resolution that you just approved, $1,000 on a drug forfeiture case. And the court ordered, again, that the money not be forfeited over to the municipality, that the state take the money, allowing the guilty party to use it as to pay for their fine. We have a disturbing trend that is beginning here. Granted, we're not the large cities that get, hundreds of thousands of dollars in drug forfeiture, but the drug forfeiture money we do get, I've been putting towards purchasing capital equipment. And to give you an example, sometime this month, we're supposed to be getting delivery of new bulletproof vests for the officers on the department. Our current vests are over 7 years old, and it's been a long time since we've gone through that. I was able to obtain 2 grants to help with the purchase of that, but those grants needed local match. And the local match was coming 100% out of our forfeiture account. So the nice thing about that, there was no local money being used for that. And that's a significant expenditure. Problem now is that if the state's going to start doing this to us, they're taking money away from the local communities on work that the local communities are performing. And it's going to be problematic. I am going to email my other chiefs in the district to see if anybody else has been experiencing this, but this is now twice in 3 weeks. This has happened to us on drug cases. So just again to make you aware of what's going on out there. Thank you.
Roger?
Do we have an update of what's going on with the Feeney case? I hear this about 200 times a month. What happened to that? Where's that money going? When are they gonna look into that? Have they covered that? Are they sweeping that under the rug? Where is that going?
It's in the AG's office, right, David? And it's just waiting to be prosecuted. So it's there. It's in the system. But it's not a high priority, is a fair thing to say?
Correct. I received an update from the Attorney General's office on that case probably 3 weeks ago, thereabouts. It was within the month. And they informed me very clearly that The case is still there. They are ready to begin prosecution of the case. However, it is not at the level of on their priority list that we would like it to be. They have a lot of other issues going on across the state with limited staff, is what I'm told, which is, I do know they have limited staff now up there. So I update Mr. Eldridge on it, and that's all I was told. It's there, it's not gone, they're going to get to it, but they're not giving us a date.
Yeah, I'll just comment on that, is that, you know, their caseloads they're backing up. I mean, they just don't have enough judges, and the courts are bombarded with the smaller issues, and it's a mess. I can see where it's not a priority.
And the problem with that is there's multiple problems with that. I have to attend a meeting at the end of this month at District Court with the judge there. He's requested all the local police chiefs that work through Lewiston District Court, because, again, the state is so overburdened on a particular issue, they are now going to put that burden onto the local municipalities and the law enforcement agencies. It's an administrative function, but instead of the district court system doing it, they're going to require the local jurisdictions to do it, which goes back to a couple of years ago when they took subpoenas. The district attorney's office always used to draft the subpoenas. Well, now, in all juvenile cases, subpoenas are drafted by the local jurisdiction because they don't have the staff to do it. It's all funneling down. And now, like I said with forfeiture, they're taking their money away from us on that too, so.
And from what I see is, the sad part is the municipalities, schools, I mean, they're just passing it right down here. And I don't see it stopping until the economy really flips and revenue starts to increase. You know, that it's going to keep being passed down to us, and it's not a pretty picture to the municipalities, and I don't know how they expect the taxpayer at this level just to keep absorbing what the state is not managed well, but that's the boat we're in.
Michelle?
We haven't closed out audience participation.
No? Right, no, do you have anything you wanted to say? Okay, next item. Oh.
Yes, I wanted to speak.
Oh.
I was patiently waiting because you guys kind of went into.
Yes, no, certainly.
You had given an $85,000 savings on the water project, and what you had given before was one bid for $35 and then a second one that came in at $40 a foot. What does that $85,000 represent as savings per foot? Did they give the
Well,
breakdown?
maybe we didn't say it extremely well. When we put the bond together, we had gotten a bid from K&K that we wouldn't hold their feet to the fire on of $35 per square foot. When we went back to them, their bid came in roughly at about $40 per square foot, which was a bid of about $485,000. So when Ryan went to Longchamps and didn't tell them anything we had from K&K, said, what would it cost me to have this work done? They came in slightly under $35 a square foot, which was at about $402,000.
Okay, so they're under the 35, the original price.
They're slightly under the 35 per square foot.
Okay, that was the one part we
for
didn't hear,
that.
so I wanted to understand
That's
where
a good question.
the
Yep.
savings was per foot versus the lump sum 85.
Right.
And just some additional comment, for those who haven't been in attendance on a regular basis for the last probably 2 years, last year, when the budget was presented by department and overall, audience participation was allowed. Something new for those, again, who haven't been here in a while, to understand that it's being presented in a workshop form, and my understanding, based on, not your last meeting, but I believe the meeting before when you guys voted on this, was that during the workshops, there won't be audience participation, that will only occur at the 2 hearings, just so that those who weren't here before might fully understand that, because I think there might have been some misunderstanding. But that is correct as to how you decided this year to proceed, is workshops and only 2 public hearings.
Right,
around the
the
budget.
council has agreed that with the workshops, there'll be no public can attend, but no public input, so that the public, council and advisory board can get through their reviews, and the school committee, And then we have a scheduled public hearing, and I believe council said that we should take one of those workshops and take some public input from one of those workshops.
Right.
Throughout the
Which we did.
process. So there is public input 2 times throughout the process.
Versus the one that it used to be, but this is very different from the prior years for those that maybe hadn't followed it very closely in the past, so just wanted to make sure, because it was kind of alluded to that we still had public comment during the workshops and town council meetings, which we really don't, just so that I don't want people coming out expecting to be able to speak when it is a little different this year.
Well, I hope they still come out even though they can't speak, so they can hear
Oh, no, I
and
just said I
understand.
don't want them to come out thinking they can speak. You can still come out. I mean, a lot of us are regulars and are
Right.
here every single month and, twice a month for all the meetings, which is leading into my other part. The fact that I come and participate and care enough to come and participate in the off-season, not just during the budget, not just during, something that pertains to my department or a bid or to anything else, doesn't make me a special interest group or a member thereof. It makes me a concerned person who pays taxes and lives here in this town and cares about the way things are going. And the only way you can do that is to be informed. The only way you can be informed is to either A, attend a meeting, or B, watch them the Thursday following the meeting of that same week. And every time it comes up, there's always this reference of special interest groups. And I'm sorry if I come to a meeting and I have a concern and I listen to what people within town speak, just as all of you have spoken about different things that have come up that you've either gotten phone calls or have talked to your constituents about. People within the town themselves talk. And the fact that I'm able to come here and am at least bold enough to speak about it, I don't think makes me representative of a special interest group. I'm of a group that cares about what's going on in my town. And if I care enough to want to come out and vote in June on my school budget, and at the same time want to have input on my town budget, I don't think that makes me a special interest group. That gives me my ability to vote, which is the last time I checked something within the United States we're allowed to have. So I don't like the reference a lot of times of special interest. So since it was brought up, I would just like a comment, because when I brought it up at the first meeting in December, I was told that it would be put off to the next meeting because you said that you had new people coming on board. I've raised it again several times. If it is going to be essentially your stance that you really don't want to address it, because that's kind of what was alluded to, but I want to give you the option to at least address that and give me an answer. Could we at least resolve that tonight so that it doesn't keep coming up and I don't have additional questions coming up, because it'll be there for the public to hear. I just want to know where your stance is, because it's been pushed off now for over 2 months. And at the first meeting, I was told and assured it would be on the agenda soon before we get into budget season. We're now approaching that. We're on the cusp of it. So if you're not going to address it, just at least say so, because then we won't come and ask about it anymore. I would just respectfully ask for your opinion on it, and let's be done and move forward.
agenda and discuss it next
Yeah,
meeting.
we have
Okay,
it.
we'll put it on the agenda and discuss it at the next meeting as a council.
March 16th.
Yeah, I mean, it's being alluded to that it's, you guys are getting comments from other people saying that you're stonewalling. I mean, you're getting let's just put it out there and be done with it, and at least have your final input and comments so that those types of things don't come up anymore, because I wouldn't come up here and unfairly make a comment like that, and try to be at least respectful and say, at least let's put it out there and finalize it and be done.
Okay?
Can I just make a quick comment to that, or, Michelle, and again, I think it's a legitimate concern. Hearing it as a council, I have concerns about how the process would go. And the only thing I really have to reference it by is pretty much like what happened with the school vote last year. I think what happened to the school vote last year when I went out and was voted down was a lot of people voting with not a lot of knowledge. Myself, and I'm not picking on voters, it was just strictly a vote that was a shame vote in a sense, you know what I mean, because it really didn't do anything for our public schools, it actually took away. No, don't get me wrong, I mean, I think it vote, but actually, at the end of the day, if people realized or when they walked in to vote, had 100% of the information, what was actually gonna happen with their vote, I mean, I guess my concern is having the people to vote be 100% knowledgeable on what they're actually voting for. And I think and again, it is tough. It's just one of those things where right now, again, just going back to the school vote last year, pretty much what happened with the school concerns me a little bit, because money was taken away from something that really shouldn't have been taken away. It actually was really kind of a bad, it wasn't something that benefited that town. When we actually go to, when town people vote to take away money where they don't know where the money's coming from, because that's not what the vote says, it's just yes or no, then the money has to come away from us actually keeping our buildings up where they need to be and not really affect anything else. I mean, that to me is a concern. If people actually was able to vote and knew exactly what the outcome of the vote would be, I would feel that to be a better vote. But I don't think the system for the school is really good, the way they go through the voting process. I don't think it really benefits a lot. I think if anything, it really puts a lot of burden onto a school department and a school board and the town that spend hours and hours to make a budget when people actually go in and vote and actually probably don't know the total outcome of what the vote will be when they vote on it. I'm a little bit concerned that that may happen on the town side too. Again, I just think there's a lot of flaws in the way that the school vote gets put through, and I'd hate to see those flaws get put through the municipal side too. And I guess that's my concern. Can it be actually ironed out to be a better process? Possibly. I mean, there's no question about it, and I think that's one of the things we talked about is it would just be nice to know exactly how you can do it to make it beneficial. And to just say, yes, we need to put it and have it kind of happen like what the school did last year, to me, it's concerning, that's all.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
After that? One, I would find it hard to believe that none of you would agree that there is a lot of people that go to the poll no matter what it is they're voting on, and they don't know what they're voting on. That would be my first comment, and I would find it hard for anybody to refute that and say that everybody's educated no matter what it is they're going to
Totally
vote
agree.
on.
Yep.
That happens all the time. The second part I would remind you guys of is that what the vote came back and said was that, yes, it was too high. But remind you, who made that dollar amount and then voted to cut it? There was no dollar amount attached to it, just that it was too high. You guys set the dollar amount that was then cut and voted on that amount, not the town. All that you got back was a message saying, yes, it was too high. What then proceeded beyond that was suggestions as to what you guys thought it was that was too high, and that was the salary piece of it, because it had not yet been decided. The union and all the negotiations had not yet come to fruition on the salary increase. And that's where you guys derived your dollar amount from, based on that assumption that that's what the town was trying to send you as a message. So that was something that you guys took on. I understood you guys were in a hard piece. I was here for that meeting as I was for all the other ones. It was a hard thing to try to derive what the message truly was, and that's kind of where you guys went with it, was the assumption was that the message is that the salary line needs to be cut because the town employees did not take an increase, and you guys thought that that's what the town was trying to send back. So that kind of is where that amount came from. The dollar amount that was cut is what you guys decided upon as a dollar amount and then voted on, not the town.
Which is really tough, because.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Go ahead.
I'm
No,
gonna police ourselves. We've talked more than our 10 minutes on this item. It's going on the 16th agenda. We'll have further discussion then.
No, I just wanted
Not
to.
on this topic. This topic is closed. If you have additional audience participation.
On the water line, you keep saying square foot. Is that square foot or linear foot?
Linear foot, I'm sorry, Dot. Linear foot.
Thank you.
You're correct. Thank you.
Clarification.
Next item.
Please.
There are no appointments, and it would be councilor communications.
Do we have any council communications?
Yes.
Gina?
I would just like to say that as a counselor, I like to get phone calls from people. And I haven't gotten any for a really, really long time. And specifically, I haven't gotten any on the budget question. So if there is somebody out there in television land that wants to call me and tell me that we need to vote on the budget, I want to hear from you. Because that helps me to know that there are all these people out there that other people say there are that want us to vote on the budget issue. So that's my counselor communication.
Any other communications?
Well, I can say that I've been supportive of the idea, but I haven't got any calls either from the public, so I think it's important that we do get feedback from the public, and I agree with Gina that I welcome all calls.
Let's hope they're listening.
Any other council?
Only thing that I'd add to that is that if it's, what's there to be scared of? If we don't think that the people want it, put it out there, let them vote on it.
Vern?
All good.
Mark?
I'd just like to say thank you to all the CMP line workers who spent the whole weekend out there working in that nasty weather. And I lost power, and I know a lot of other people did. And thanks for, spending your weekend on working on that when I'm sure you'd rather be doing something else. Good job.
Thank you, Mark. I'd also like to thank the tree service people who actually, before all these storms, came out and cleared a lot of our area in town, and all the work that they did kept a lot of power on for people, and for the unfortunate ones that did lose power. But I think without the work that they had done throughout the summer and everything, we would have been in a whole lot worse situation with everything that just came out.
It certainly wasn't because there was too many trees on Route 9.
Well, I was gonna ask Mark how he lost his power.
What happened there?
Okay, next item, please.
Is executive session, order 2010-40, to go into executive session per 1 MRSA Section 4056D, labor negotiations for Public Works, sergeants, and Maine Association of Police,
In the general unit.
and the general unit.
Thank you.
Okay, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion that we go into executive session for order 2010-40, order 1 MRSA 4056D. All of that.
I have a motion from Councilor Mason, a second from Councilor Crafts. All those in favor?
Order passed 6-0.
Thank you very much. And we don't have anything to sign tonight, folks, so. All right.
Mike, can we have a second to run to the bathroom?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Take a minute.